Hello everyone, today we're doing a quick video which is going to look at the development blog for the Leopard 2K. The reason why I'm not going to do a full video on it is because I'm still ill, and also I have to work a full day today. As you can see, I'm already ready for work. This actually dropped when I was just getting ready for work. So before we actually get to the main content, I just want to let you know that there is a TEC log from 5 days ago. It's a 5k subscriber thank you, but the main thing is to post your questions below, so you can post any comments or questions you have, maybe for me, or my opinions on something, or something else. And the reason for this is so I can use them in a video that I'm either going to do on Saturday or Sunday this week, pretty much a 5k Q&A idea. So if you have any questions and you want them answered, then the best thing to do is to go there and to post them there. So there you go. So let's get into the main meat of the story here today. We're looking at the Leopard 2K. This is a prototype version of the Leopard 2, and it looks like it's coming to War Thunder. It seems like when they showed the Leopard that's in the April Fool's event alongside with the Russian vehicle, that seems to be where they're aiming at, because the Leopard 2K is definitely on the way there. Now, there is some kind of interesting things in this devblog that we're going to go through today. But first of all, it's a beautiful looking tank. It's got to be said. And it's going to be stabilized, it's going to be fast, it's going to have everything apart from the armor. That is, to be honest, not really that required at high ability, and everything like that is something that you're trying to look for instead of armor, where armor is definitely second to those abilities. But anyway, it says, once it was clear the US-German jointly developed MBT-70 project was doomed to fail, German engineers began working on a new MBT design that would incorporate some of the technologies developed for the MBT-70. So they basically took some of the ideas from the KPZ-70 that we have in game, and they wanted to incorporate it into a new battle tank that the Germans would make on their own. The result of the undertaking was, of course, the Leopard 2K, which we see here. So this is basically going to be a better version of the MBT-70 and the KPZ-70, giving the Germans something better than what the Americans have. We already had the Baguette Panzer added, which gives Germany a strong lineup at rank 6 alongside the KPZ-70, just like how the Americans have the M60 Rise and also the MBT-70. Now they get a new toy to play with alongside the Leopard as well, probably the best AA in the game, at least arguably. So the main thing to realize is that the Leopard 2K is not the only version or prototype version of the Leopard 2 that we had in real life. There was actually many different versions of it, and they even had different guns. This one sports quite a large gun, the 120mm, which I believe is talked about down here, so we'll get to it when we get to it. The history, if you want to read it, is right here. It is definitely something that should be read, because it's kind of interesting. They basically go into the different Leopard 2 versions here, the 105 smoothbore cannon, and the other fitted with the 120mm smoothbore cannons. And some of the prototypes had hydraulic suspension, others didn't, and some had the 20mm anti-air mount of the turret. Now, one thing that I am worried about, that I actually see in the Leopard 2K, is something that has been done before. In War Thunder, the Horton is a prime example of this. What the Horton is in game right now is a conglomeration of 3 variants of the Horton that actually existed in real life. The engines of one of them, the wings of another, and the guns of a different one. Not the version that actually flew, but a conglomeration of the best parts of what the Horton could have been. Now, the Leopard 2K is pretty much the same idea, but for tanks. It is a conglomeration of all of the things from the prototype series which were good, and put into one single vehicle. So it seems like instead of just adding all of these prototype vehicles to the game, they're sticking to one, and it's the best one. Maybe we'll see some of the other ones moving forward, but, you know, it's kind of up in the air. You have some wonderful pictures of the machine. It is a beautiful looking machine. The Leopard in general is a nice looking machine. And the Leopard 2K will expand the Leopard line into rank 6, or in rank 6, I believe. Actually, I'm not sure if the A1A1 is in rank 6, but it is definitely at least close. So it's one of the many prototypes. It has the 120mm Rheinmetall 120L44 and also the turret-mounted 20mm. So as I said, combining the best of both worlds with this machine. And the main reason, as they say, the reason why they're adding this prototype in instead of some of maybe the other ones, is the fact that they find this one the most interesting. I would agree with them, because it has the most stuff in it. It has the 20mm, it has the 120, it has the stabilization, it has the speed, it pretty much has everything. So therefore adding it in makes a lot of sense. The Leopard 2K builds on the familiar Leopard formula, but goes one step further, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. One of the standout features is its 120mm smoothbore cannon, and this can pierce even the thickest armor found in War Thunder with relative ease. So once again, as I said before, armor is just becoming, completely useless at rank 6. One of the biggest things that the Chieftain has going for it is its turret with its still brew armor, and hopefully with the addition of the Leopard 2K, maybe we get the Chieftain Mark 11, which has the still brew on the chassis itself, so therefore it can actually have good armor, you know, all across it instead of just a turret. That won't matter to this machine. This machine will just go straight through it, meaning that this game will become even more pokey, even more corner peeking, even more if you cock up once, this thing's gonna nail you, just like an MBT-70, just like a KPZ-70 does. So it's going to be coming down to, instead of a player playing well at rank 6, who is going to make the least mistakes, which in some people's minds is exactly the same thing, and that's completely fine. But for me personally, I would like to see more aggression in the game and more outplays instead of who makes the least mistakes. It can also go 70 kilometers an hour, but that isn't the main feature of this 1500 horsepower engine that is going to be the thing that you're going to focus on. These statistics of top speed are always over-exaggerated, especially when we come to War Thunder. Generally, what you should actually look for instead of the top speed is the acceleration it takes to get there, or at least to a comparable speed. The MBT-70 and the KPZ-70 are not really maneuverable vehicles because of their top speed. They are because of their acceleration. And that is exactly the same with this Leopard 2K. This thing is going to be incredibly quick around the battlefield, which means that your slow vehicles are just going to get absolutely hounded to death. And, well, I just kind of feel sorry for you. At least this isn't a proper Leopard 2. So, although rank 6 vehicles in War Thunder are best known for their advanced armor protection, well, no, they're not, such as ERA and composite armor, the Leopard 2K relies on a complex combination of multi-layered, highly sloped, and relatively thin steel armor plating. This gives the Leopard 2K comparable armor protection to other rank 6 vehicles, but with a reduced weight. A fully loaded Leopard 2K weighs about 50 tons, making it slightly lighter than the MBT-70. So as you can see, it's another vehicle which is going to be pretty much, it's going to feel very much like an MBT-70 or a KPZ-70. It's going to be quick around the place. The armor itself, even though it is even better, or at least the same but lighter than the MBT-70, guess what exists in the game which negates all of this armor? First of all, you have aircraft, which negates it. And second of all, you have APFSDS at rank 6, which is the hailing round that everybody uses because of its insane penetration and the fact that it can go through pretty much any armor that it faces, meaning that the first shot potential of a tank is much more useful to you instead of the actual armor penetration of the gun, because everybody has pretty much the same armor penetration. on their guns, and everyone is able to pen everyone. So even though it has highly sloped armor, the only thing this will bring is frustration to community members who will shoot this thing, and it will bounce off randomly when you believe it shouldn't. The majority of the time you should only be able to see the turret of this machine anyway, so it really depends on how the APFS DS spreads within the vehicle itself. Something that Bad Mofo has talked about a lot. A guy I go for advice for rank 6, especially the American tanks. I did a War Thunder Talks with him a while back about the American tanks. Something he brings up a lot is the ninja nerfs to stuff like the MBT-70 and its accuracy at range. The APFS DS over its time period with that tank has been decreased in accuracy over range. So therefore, will the Leopard 2K still have this issue, just like the MBT and the KPZ do, to try and balance it? I highly doubt it, since for me this is going to be the premium vehicle that everybody is going to use at rank 6, another German vehicle which, if it doesn't have any counterparts, is going to rule the battlefield once again. Hi, Tiger 2H on release. Hi, RU251 on release. Even the IS-6 struggled against that thing. So, even if the Leopard 2K's armor makes you feel a little less protected, its mobility definitely makes up the difference. Enemies can't hit what they can't see, and the Leopard 2K's speed and mobility make it a virtual ghost on the battlefield. By the time you see it and hear the thunder of its 120mm cannon, you're probably already dead. That could be said about every single rank 6 machine that we have. At least the really top tier ones, the T-64A, the MBT, KPZ, and also this machine once it's coming in. Even the Begled Panzer, even though it doesn't have the penetration of the others, it still has that speed and mobility behind it to be able to get in, get out. That's why, as I said before, making a mistake is such an absolute pain in the ass, because you get punished hard in these vehicles. If you are slightly out of position, you're going to get sniped. If you miss a shot, you are going to die. Now this happens at a lot of ranks, but at the top tiers, it is the least forgiving because of the APFS DS round, the experience of the players, and also the fact that a lot of these guns are incredibly accurate across the way. Now, this is actually coming in update 1.77. What is interesting is, for me, this is a direct upgrade over the KPZ, which means that it's a direct upgrade over the MBT, and personally, it's definitely better than the Chieftain in its current state, and it is better than the T-64A. Now, that comes down to personal opinion of using the vehicles. You may have differing opinions, and that's completely fine, but that opens up the question to me, what are they going to add to the other nations to make them combat effective against the new best main battle tank from the Germans? Well, for the Americans, your obvious option is some kind of Abrams prototype, very much similar to the Leopard 2K being a prototype for the Leopard 2. The Abrams also had prototypes. The MBT-70 is kind of seen as one of these, but there was definitely Abrams prototypes which were hogging around at the time. At the same time, for the British, instead of just going Chieftain Mark 11, what you have is, of course, the Challenger series. The Challenger series uses Chobham armor, just like the M1 Abrams, but I believe some of the early prototypes of the Abrams did not. I'm not exactly sure if the Challenger prototypes use the Chobham armor, but maybe those would be some things to consider when thinking about what could go up against the Leopard 2. The Japanese, unfortunately, are kind of screwed again unless you want to go to the 1990s, where I believe they get the Type 9, I believe it is. It might be the 9 or the 95 or the 99. I believe it's the first real proper MBT the Japanese made for the time. And when we look at France, I mean, France is in a terrible position right now. Once these things start rolling about, you may like that 120mm from the Surbassé, or you may love the AMX-13 Hot because of its rockets, or you may love the AMX-13 with the high battle rating. But if it rocks up against this thing, well, it's just going to absolutely decimate you, just like the KPZ and the MBT already does to you. So, it's going to be interesting to see what the French get, if they get anything. And also, it's going to be interesting when the Italians come around, what are they going to get to combat this? Maybe another Leopard prototype. What is interesting to think about when the Leopard 2K is added to the game is what is it actually going to fight as well. What we've seen in the most recent times is people in KPZs fighting MBTs and not on the same side. Now this is basically down to the reasons, people are actually playing those two tanks, so therefore there isn't enough of the other tanks in the matchmaking to be able to face them, so therefore they have to face each other. Will we kind of get a similar idea with the Leopard 2? There is also, as we go further into the future, and we get into more modernization, what we end up in is a situation which is very similar to the Saber situation that we have in-game already. Technically, if you wanted to, each nation that we have in the game could easily have a Saber. Most nations already do. The Americans, the Germans, the Japanese, and I think that's it for now. I may be wrong, but I don't think there's anyone else. But the Russians could definitely get a captured one. The British used sabers, and then the French and the Italians also use sabers in certain capacities. Now, are we going to get to a point in tanks where this is the case as well? Nowadays, if we look at something like the Canadian Army mainly uses Leopard 2s. They've actually just ordered all of their Leopard 1s that they have in service to be upgraded to Leopard 2s, and they already use Leopard 2s. So therefore everything is getting upgraded to Leopard 2s. Now, the British, the Russians, and the Americans and the Germans all have their own vehicles that they research, that they develop. The Challenger, the T whatever it is for the Russians, I'm not exactly sure what they're using right now. The Abrams, and the Leopard, I can't remember which one, but it's basically the new version of the Leopard. What about the other nations? Italy, Japan. Japan has its own main battle tank at this time, but it's still inferior to the German one, so they'll probably get the German one. And then we have the Italians and the French. What do they get at this time? Do they also get Leopards? This is something that we have to come to grips with. The whole idea of having a united front in the world, at least from the western side versus the eastern side, means that standardization happened. We already see it in the game already with certain vehicles. So as we keep taking more steps towards modern day, we're going to see more vehicles of the same caliber fighting each other, even maybe the same vehicles fighting the same vehicles, such as the 75 Jumbo French fighting the 75 Jumbo American. And for me personally, I don't really find that quite interesting. You may have a different way of looking at it, maybe you enjoy it, but for me, that's just not very fun. But anyway, this has been a quick look at the news bulletin, looking at the Leopard 2K. I am excited, but I'm not really excited for the Leopard 2K. What I'm excited for is to see what other nations have. I'm going to have a good day at work. I hope you guys have a wonderful day at school, at work, whatever you're doing, if you're just relaxing. Have a fun day. Maybe even get some reading done. But anyway, have a good... Yeah, sure. Get some reading done. I have no idea why I said that. Anyway, have a good one.